Hello everybody, it's WJ here and welcome back to Heimstadt. Today we start with the southern part of Notitledontcare, the rich bastards neighborhood. I already placed some houses and will divide them with some hedge networks. I used mostly the UK thatched houses by Rick 4000. They look quite luxurious and therefore fit perfectly. The inspiration for this area came from a few towns in the Netherlands that are located in the forestry areas of the dunes, such as Bergen, Bloemendaal and of course Aardenhout. And Aardenhout is where I got the name Aardenhout from. Meanwhile, I'm also moving the houses a bit, because I don't want them to align perfectly to the roads. The hedges are quite tall, which means that the plots of the houses are quite secluded. And that is exactly what I'm going for, as these rich bastards don't want anyone poking their nose around their property. After I'm done marking out the plots, we'll go over to the road leading to the bridge towards the monastery to build a very special street. And after that, we'll return to this area to detail some of the yards and some empty spaces. I won't show all of that in this episode, it's quite long as it is now. Just some interesting bits and pieces. It will be the last video in which we'll visit Aardenhout for a while. I have some material for at least 1 or 2 episodes, with a completely different build in a completely different area. And after that I'm not sure yet. It all depends on something I have no influence on. And that's all I can tell you at this point. Also, next week is the week before Christmas. And if I'm able, I will make a very special episode on the progress we've made so far. But it will be a very busy week for me at work, so I can't promise anything. After all, it's still a hobby for me and not my day job. Unless I ask every viewer to pay me at least 20 euros per episode. But about this series. There will be a break starting in January. But not because I stopped playing the game or don't want to make videos anymore. I've started a new project, and so far I think it's decent enough to start a new YouTube series on that build. It's going to be something very near to me, like in a physical sense, literally near to me. Thanks to procedural objects with the feature to add your own custom textures and some amazing buildings that were released lately on the workshop, I'm finally able to create a reasonably good-looking Dutch city. For those of you that know me from Discord will probably have seen some screenshots already. I'm pretty excited to get started with all that. But back to Aardenhout now. I'm not at all happy with the streets you're seeing on screen. All that asphalt, it's just not fitting. But I haven't replaced them yet. Or maybe I should just put some brick pavement decals over there. Also, when this episode is over, not all the yards will be detailed. And then there are the backyards I marked out in the previous episode that still aren't detailed. But I'm sorry, it takes a load of time. And I'd like to do a little more exciting work, like a palace, or a giant industrial complex, or a neighborhood with large concrete flats, or a marina, or... Yes, I still haven't run out of ideas. And as I said before, this series will continue until either the save becomes corrupted or the FPS drops below 0 and the game becomes unplayable. But thanks to the speed slider, I still have a decent FPS. While recording some cinematics for this episode, at one time the dynamic resolution mod displayed an FPS of 155. But that was probably because I was running the game at 10% speed. I'm moving some of these French suburban houses together to create more modern looking villas. And meanwhile I'm drinking tea. Hot tea. My throat loves it. Usually I do these commentaries in one take, but today, with the cold and the sore throat I'm having, it takes a few more takes. Damn, that's a terrible joke. But I'm sorry if my voice isn't as lovely as usual. It'll come back to me one day, I'm sure. just like my ex-girlfriend. When you stretch out the nodes of these hedges too far, the hedge will stop at a point, leaving, well, nothing to see. So we'll have to do this stretch in 2 parts. I wonder if I've created an odd shape with these hedges, like I did with some bushes in the previous episode. Maybe some female parts this time? Now, after I have moved some of the entrances around a bit and raised the terrain slightly to get rid of some bumps in the hedges, I'm done with the layout of this neighborhood. Time to start with the special street I was talking about. But before we can do that, we need some houses. And we're gonna build our own. To do that, we go over to a flat section of the map to build some houses using the modular houses pack by Rick 4000. First, I thought to use the option of move it to snap to the grid, but it turned out it didn't work that well, apart from aligning the parts perfectly. I need to change the direction of the light from time to time to get a good view while putting these parts together. It was the first time for me to build a house this way, so I was not familiar yet with the dimensions of the several parts, which had me struggling a bit. Now I copy the first house and create a second version. Over to the street. The street is on a slope, so I place some other buildings on the other side, so I can use them to align the heights of my houses. But they still need some tweaks up and down, and at some points, for some reason, not all parts of the house want to stay at the same elevation, which is quite annoying. I think it has to do with them being just one step sunken into the ground, but I'm not sure. Nevertheless, it takes a lot of the before mentioned tweaking to get everything right. After this row is finished, I will place some fences in front of the houses and edit them with procedural objects to make them follow the terrain a bit. Then some gravel decals, a tree here and there, and some backyards. And the row on the other side will magically appear. Meanwhile, let us take a look at the story behind this odd row of houses onto a street for pedestrians only. The street is as old as the monastery and was used by the monks to visit the town and the townspeople to visit the church on the abbey grounds. During the years, many houses were built next to the street. After the Second World War, the town council found the houses there to be in a too bad condition to fit next to the quite luxurious neighborhood. They demolished all the houses and built some modern row houses. The street is still used by many people to walk over to the abbey. They decided to keep the streetcar free. And so, the Old Walk, or Alte Wanderweg, came to be as you see it now. just shut your mouth and run. Every time I walk into your sight, you just look away, let go aside. I don't think you recognize. Can I even do something right? And every time I do something nice, you just walk away with no reply. Baby, look into my eyes. Can I even do something right? Feeling fucked up, sitting on a shotgun, getting you to notice that I'm the one for you to lean on. Come here to be strong. Misunderstanding me is everything that you've done. Feeling fucked up, sitting on a shotgun. When I tell you you look good, you think I'm making fun, but I wouldn't dare to. You can make me swear to, but whatever I try, you just shut your mouth and shut your mouth. I want to break through your walls. I want to give you everything, but you don't seem to care at all. You can have me, but you just wreck me. Do you want to kill me? Then just kill me. Go on. Feeling fucked up, sitting on a shotgun, getting you to notice that I'm the one for you to lean on. Come here to be strong. Misunderstanding me is everything that you've done. Feeling fucked up, sitting on a shotgun. When I tell you you look good, you think I'm making fun, but I wouldn't dare to. You can make me swear to, but whatever I try, you just shut your mouth and run. Every I wanted some good-looking old lampposts on the street, so I used Titan's lovely gas lanterns. They give such a nice orangey glow. So I decided to also place them on the other side of town, between the row houses that have no lights yet. I copied those lamps to all the other streets there, but I did that off camera, so you'll have to take it from me, I guess. I must say I haven't really paid much attention to the night view. Again, something for a later episode, I guess. I've still got quite a few to make, as I say this at least 5 times every episode. I have this huge gap between the houses and decided to turn it into a lush green area. I was thinking of putting a path through it all to turn it into a park, but it has no street access, so that would be kinda silly. Now, the detailing of some of the houses in the rich bastard's neighborhood. I started with putting down gates here and there. Some big and some huge, and whenever I can, I turn them into procedural objects. Now, what I forgot to mention earlier is why this town has such a wealthy neighborhood. The town started as a simple farming village. Over time, it grew a little, but never became a really rich community. By the end of the 19th century, some of the wealthier residents of Heimstadt decided to build a summer house in the quiet little town of Erdenholt. They bought the land from the farmers, and nice villas began to pop up. In the early 20th century, some of the villas became permanently inhabited, as the people wanted to flee the growing city. Between their houses and the waterfront, the wealthy citizens planted trees to create a nice park to walk in. Over the years, this turned into a tiny forest. During the 1970s, more people moved in, and the area took the shape it still has today. For this modern row house, I decided to do away with the hedge and place a nice wall that fits the gate better. Both the gate and the walls are ground conforming, so I can't turn them into procedural objects. But I can use the prop line tool. So you see, every disadvantage has its advantage. And then it's pool time, because rich bastards love pools. Everybody has one, because their neighbors do. And when your neighbors got a pool, you gotta get one too. In this corner, we create a little seating area. Some benches, with some simple pavement beneath, and then a little green area in front. Everything gets divided by some curbs. The detailing of the houses at this point consists mostly of decals and a lot of greenery. With this pool I had some troubles, as it is on quite a steep slope, so I surrounded the pool with some pluggable pavement and stairs in front. These sunken stairs by Sparks are extra nice when you turn them into procedural objects, because you can then add your own custom texture. And with that, the episode finally comes to an end. If you have seen any assets or mods that you would like to use yourself, I have 3 collections that are linked in the description. One for all the mods, one for the buildings, and one for all other stuff such as props, roads, vehicles, etc. But beware, do not download all of them at once. You need quite some RAM to use all of the assets. I advise you to just look through the collection and only subscribe to what you like. And when it comes to mods, please do read the description on the workshop. Some mods are incompatible with each other and you may end up destroying your game. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or suggestions, do leave them in the comment section or join the Discord. I would like to thank you all for watching, and if you like this video, give it a nice thumbs up. I hope to see you next time.
Kai the tuna a z. Y'all not funny. Kai the tuna a z. Y'all not funny. Kai the tuna a. Kai the tuna a z. Y'all not funny, Zay. Y'all not funny.
I wanted some good-looking old lampposts on the street, so I used Titan's lovely gas lantern. Gas. Ooh. But back to Erdenholt now. I'm not at all happy with the streets you are seeing. But back to Erdenholt. I need to change the what was that? What was that?